everyone, John Lorden here. Thank you for joining me on another episode of Case Cracked. Here we are, second week into the new schedule of only 3 videos per week, and I'm giving you, I think this is probably going to be the longest episode of Case Cracked yet. I was able to devote much more time to the research. I'm really happy with how these things are coming together on the channel. I do also have some new features I'm adding to the end of these shows, starting with this episode. We're going to look at a couple of comments from the last episode of Case Cracked, written by you wonderful people. Just discuss a couple of points on those comments, and of course we're going to have thanks for the new patrons and PayPal supporters that are helping to keep me going. Those will now happen at the end of episodes of Case Cracked, Searchlight, Brain Scratch, whatever, because obviously we don't know how often JohnnyVlogs will be popping up on the channel into the future. With all that being said, let's move into the story of justice for Christy Mirack. For this story, we're going back to December 21st, 1992, Rohrerstown Elementary School in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. It was a gray Monday morning, as a group of 6th graders sat in their class wondering what was going on. Their teacher, Christy Mirack, didn't show up. Several minutes later, another teacher came to their class and took them to the holiday assembly that was happening in the cafeteria. This just wasn't like Christy. She was dependable, and she would have called the office if she needed to stay home sick. After the assembly, the students were told there was an accident, and their teacher, Christy Mirack, wouldn't be coming back to the school. The principal, Harry Goodman, had gone to check on Christy at her home, a 3-bedroom townhouse in Greenfield Estates that she shared with a female roommate. When he got there, the door was ajar. He stepped into the living room and found her body. There had clearly been a struggle. Christmas packages, bags, and cushions had been thrown about the room. Harry ran back out to a neighbor and called 911, accidentally locking the door behind him as he ran out. Responding officers would break the door down when they arrived. Though the administrators tried to shelter the school children from the truth, they would find out via local news reports that their teacher, who was known for her energetic, happy-go-lucky spirit and infectious smile, had her life brutally ended. Christy Mirack was only 25 years old, and according to the medical examiner, had been sexually assaulted, beaten, and strangled sometime that morning between 6 a.m. and 8 a.m. Her roommate stated that she left for work that morning just before 7 a.m., and Christy at that time was getting ready as usual. The night before, Christy finished wrapping gifts for her entire class. Each child was to get a paperback copy of Miracles on Maple Hill, complete with a candy cane and message from their teacher wishing them a Merry Christmas and a great 1993. Christy had a healthy social life, though several people noted she was very private about certain things. She was a regular at Quip's Pub and other local watering holes. Even though she liked to go out to night spots, her friends say she wasn't necessarily a party girl. The next day, a 45-year-old man named Ken Lockhoff showed up at the school looking for Christy. He walked into a grief counseling and support session that the district had deployed. He stated that he was a friend of Christy's and he had been out of town. He had no idea what happened. They told him the tragic news, and when he asked for details, they said that he should read the morning paper. He left within minutes, but would later call back twice, asking about getting grief counseling for himself. Ken would also show up at Christy's funeral. Authorities say that he cooperated fully when questioned and even passed several polygraph tests. Some people were also leery of Principal Goodman. Why did he go to her home in the first place? However, employees of the school say that they were all very close, almost like family to each other, and whenever anything happened, they would usually call Harry. Quote, "He would have done it for any of us," said one teacher. Investigators would later learn about a car that was parked across the street and a man that went towards Christy's home at approximately 7 a.m. He was described as a muscular white male driving a white or faded silver car looking similar to a Dodge Daytona hatchback. Christy was typically cautious and very aware of her surroundings. How did the culprit get into her house and leave no signs of forced entry? Her front door even had a peephole. One theory is that he waited for her to leave, and as she was coming out of the front door, he pushed her back inside. Some reports say that her lunch was still in the refrigerator, but the gifts for her students were near the front door. Perhaps she was going to make multiple trips down to her car. Investigators spoke to a neighbor who says they heard a single scream at 7:15 a.m. They would also dig into Christy's past, at one point commenting that virtually everyone she worked with in the past has been eliminated. They took hair and blood samples from one person of interest and cleared him. Later reports mentioned 3 men cleared by DNA analysis. Thankfully, we at least know the culprit left DNA evidence at the scene. By 1995, over 1,500 interviews had been conducted, and 60 men were cleared based on forensic tests. It appeared investigators were working hard and eliminating leads, but was this actually bringing them any closer to the answer? Was it possible that Christy didn't know her attacker at all? The Mirack family would offer a $10,000 reward and would later publicly comment about the lack of progress in the case becoming frustrating. Her father wondered if there was more they could have done to push law enforcement harder. "Nice people finish last," he stated at one point. Christy's siblings wondered if the case was outside of the experience of the local law enforcement. The media would dig into Christy's life and air her dirty laundry, including the affair she was having with an older married man for several years. Ken Lockhoff, the same man that showed up at her school a day after her murder. The case would continue to go unsolved. 10 years later, her mother, who was now in a losing fight in her 3rd bout with cancer, would be interviewed by the Sunday News, once again to raise awareness to her daughter's case. She would pass on a few months after the publication, shortly after Christy's 35th birthday, not knowing who took her daughter away. She was buried next to Christy. Christy's father, brother, and sister would now have to carry on the search for answers and justice. One of the students from Christy Mirack's class would honor her teacher's memory by also teaching 6th grade at Rohrerstown for several years. Anita would later marry Ryan, another student from Christy's class. In October of 2017, the Lancaster County DA's office released a composite image of the suspect created strictly from his DNA found at the scene. The company that created the image was Parabon Nanolabs. Within a month, investigators had 70 new tips come in. However, more time passed, and those tips also did not pan out. Parabon called them back to offer a new service. Called Parabon Snapshot Genetic Genealogy, they compare a DNA sample to DNA website GED Match, as well as historical databases. The DA's office agreed to have Parabon give it a try, paying approximately $2,000 for the analysis. Days later, they had tracked down a family member of the suspect's DNA. Once again, GED Match plays a central role in cracking this case, just as they did with the East Area rapist and discovering the identity of Lyle Stevick. More genealogy analysis was done, and it started focusing on one name: Raymond Charles Rowe, a local party DJ also known as DJ Freeze. Police put his home under 24-hour surveillance. Now 49 years old, Rowe was 24 at the time of Christy's murder and lived only 4 miles away. He was also working as a DJ at that time and hosted an anti-violence rally only 4 months prior to Christy's murder. He has been divorced 3 times and is remarried again. He doesn't have a vast criminal record. He was arrested in 2001 at a club for disorderly conduct and resisting arrest. He even tried to file a civil suit about that incident, but the suit was dropped. This mystery not only begins at an elementary school, but ends in one. In an almost ironic twist, investigators learned that DJ Freeze's next gig was performing at an elementary school on May 31st, 2018. Undercover investigators went there to secure a direct DNA sample. They saw him use a bottle of water and toss it into the trash. They also found a wad of chewing gum close to the bottle. To avoid suspicion, they waited until after the 6th grade graduation event and collected the entire trash bag. On June 4th, the items were taken to the state police lab, and 4 days later, the results were in. They were a match. They did further DNA tests with other materials found at the scene for a few weeks and came up with one of the strongest match conclusions I've ever heard of. The odds of it being someone else are 1 in 200 octillion. In a bizarre twist, the 2 previous students of Christy's that got married, Anita and Ryan, actually tried to hire DJ Freeze for their wedding back in 2012, but he was already booked, so they had to go with someone else. Raymond Rowe was arrested on June 25th, 2018, and his preliminary hearing was originally scheduled for July 9th, but it wouldn't be uncommon for a case this complex to have it rescheduled to a month or 2 later. So I think we're going to get some updates on that in the future. Christy's brother, Vince, who was 21 at the time, never heard of Raymond Rowe before his arrest and was shocked that Rowe was still living in Lancaster. Vince represented his father and sister at a press conference, stating, "It's just the beginning of the marathon. This is where it all starts. We still have to go through the process, and I'm sure it's going to be a detailed process, a long process." He plans on attending Rowe's trial. Quote, She's never going to come back, but she'll finally be at peace. We'll have the answers we need. We'll be able to move on, and he'll have to pay the price. Investigators are still trying to piece together the story and their case to make sure the guy they know committed this act doesn't get off on a technicality. If you have information to help with this case, please contact the Lancaster County District Attorney's Office. I've put contact information for them in the description box below. In 1993, several months after Christy's murder, her family and friends finally got access to the crime scene that was her apartment. The houseplants were all dead. Her Christmas tree was still up, and they found gifts for her friends, family, and students. They sat in a circle and shared memories and tears. They also took the gifts for her students to the school, where the principal met with each student privately to offer it to them. Case cracked. Another amazing story of a familial DNA match. I think we're going to see a lot more of these. I think it's pretty interesting now that we have a company that's basically learned how to do that service and is offering it directly in cases like this. And quite honestly, just for $2,000, can you imagine the amount of money that has been spent on an investigation that's gone on for 25 years? $2,000 is probably a drop in the bucket, and for them to come out with such a solid result is really interesting. Other press on this case are talking about some of the legal aspects. We've talked about these on the channel before as well. And of course, privacy concerns. They are still saying they're not using 23andMe or some of those other popular genealogy websites. Everyone is in particular using GED Match. I'm thinking that there must be something in their language agreement that is allowing people to feel comfortable using it in this way. There was even a quote from the analyst that worked on this saying that, well, I know that GED Match has been used in this way before, so I believe the public knows that if you use that service, law enforcement's starting to use that service now too. I don't know if we could really assume that the public knows about it, but I know anyone that watches my videos certainly does know about it. And it is still an interesting debate. We've kind of talked about this with the Lyle Stevick thing a little bit. Is DNA really private? We had a good conversation about that on JohnnyVlogs you might want to check out. That even included an expert in the field, someone that helped crack some of these cases, and her comments. So you might want to take a look at that. I'll put a link for you guys in the description box below on that as well. I do want to share a couple of comments from the last case cracked, which was a few weeks ago now. It was the missing man and his semi. And if you don't remember, this is the case where the guy goes missing. He's got his semi full of potato chips, but he decides not to eat any of the potato chips because that would be stealing. And, you know, it's his customers' It's his customer's product. He's not going to do that. Helene G says, if life is not worth a bag of chips, I don't know where this world is heading. I think that's a very good point. Quite honestly, if I was in this guy's shoes, I'm pretty sure I would have cracked into the back there and taken some potato chips. You could always pay the company back for it later. Aaron S. Davis, or Aaron's Davis, I'm not sure if the S is separate. I too am glad he's home safe, but how many people, including his 2 kids, was he prepared to have suffer grief over his loss for a bag of chips? Effing chips, according to Aaron, but I totally get the point. If push came to shove, I expect he would have tucked into those chips rather than endure starvation. Surely he couldn't be that stupid. I don't think it's a matter of him being stupid. I think there's some logistics that were going on here. We're kind of assuming that he was staying with the truck through all this. He didn't. He bailed from the truck. So in terms of him taking some of these chips, he would have had to be carrying them with him. Maybe he wasn't expecting to be lost for that long. So I kind of get it, but once again, like I'm telling you guys, I probably would have cracked into there, at least taken a couple bags, maybe filled up all of the pockets that I had on me with them, something along those lines. I wouldn't want to be carrying a box, when you're going through tough terrain like that. So I understand that aspect of it. And _NOPE_, oh, I get it. It's Nope, but Nope is separated. Says, I wonder if he made the whole I don't like to steal thing afterwards, maybe to convince his employer or something, or if he actually believed it. I have a feeling that he didn't think he would be walking very far before he found help somewhere, so he didn't bother grabbing the chips. The chips would also probably be very bulky to carry while you're searching for help, so maybe he just didn't want to have anything inhibiting his way out. I mean, people can't survive for weeks without food if you were stranded with snow. And people are saying, saved me from typing that out myself. As a matter of fact, Nope, if I would have read that before, I wouldn't have just made all the same points that you basically put very succinctly in just a few sentences. Good work. So those are some of the comments I just wanted to review with you guys. I'm going to try to do that more often. It's one of the benefits of me having more time now is that I'm able to check out the comments. Before we end today's episode, I want to thank some very important people, starting with Luis Wilkins, who has made a donation to me via PayPal. On my new websites, I now have a way where you can set up a donation. You can even make it recurring if you want. It's very easy. You could just go to lordandarts.com, look in the upper right-hand corner. You could jump right on my Patreon, or you can help out through PayPal right there. Very quick, very simple. On top of that, speaking of Patreon, we have new patrons, Ryan Rash, hey Ryan, and Chloe Beaton. Did you know I have a cat named Chloe? And I love the heck out of her. On top of that, Allison Tapman has increased her pledge. Thank you so much, Allison. And Matt Bishop also increased his pledge and sent me a very cool message. Hey, what's up, Matt? Really appreciate everyone's support. Thank you so much. And I hope you enjoyed that episode. I'll see you back here on Wednesday with a brand new Brain Scratch Searchlight. Hope you'll join me there. Take care.